The items of heedfulness regarding temple visits, item number 4, which was the topic of our study this week. Be heedful to set aside in advance each year the training fees for Zen retreats so that you may pursue specialized practice in the Zen Center. When I was preparing for this presentation, I was unable to locate in our course materials any additional direct references to retreats or the retreat process. This surprised me, given the otherwise consistent attention to detail of the teachings. Yet Master Sotazan felt so strongly about the importance of retreats that he dedicated an item of heedfulness to it. Not only does he imply that it is essential to our progress, but he goes further to advise us to engage in a retreat, not just for the experience or just now and then, but to be heedful to attend a retreat each year. Further, he advises us to set aside money. In Master Sotazan's era in Korea, I imagine it was not at all easy for most people to set aside money for retreats. And it can be difficult today too, both in terms of funds and time away from our daily responsibilities. Yet he tells us to make this a priority by planning each year for it. In this presentation, I'd like to share with you my perspective on the purpose and benefits of attending retreats. Why would anyone want to go on a retreat? It takes funds away from other usage. We may need to use precious vacation time from work. We may need to coordinate and pay for childcare, elder care, or pet care, and tend to a host of other arrangements. Sometimes it puts an extra burden of responsibility for daily affairs on a partner or a family member who may or may not emphasize with our desire to go on retreat. For most of us, it requires quite a bit of planning and effort. And on top of this, we are leaving our familiar routines and whatever freedom we may have in doing whatever we wish, when we wish. We may go to temple, attend classes, participate in Sangha, and engage daily in our practices. Isn't this sufficient? Why do Won Buddhism and many other spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of periodically going on retreats? First, let us look at what we are retreating from and what we are retreating to when we engage in a group or an individual retreat. Throughout our lives, we are conditioned to look outward by society and by our very biology. Our society emphasizes engaging in external activities, orienting us outward. We are born with senses that naturally engage us in the external world of sensations and perceptions. They flow outward, seeking and interacting with sensory stimuli or conditions. These sensory conditions contribute to the formation of our mental constructs and behavioral patterns. From this, attachments and aversions arise, which, as the Buddha teaches, keep us bound to suffering. As the first 3 items in the essential dharma of daily practice state, our minds are originally free from disturbance, delusion, and wrongdoing, but these arise in response to sensory conditions. The mind is originally free. Our original nature is one without obstructions or hindrances, vast, endless, and timeless, without the boundaries imposed by the discriminating mind. Our original mind can be likened to an empty sky on a cloudless day. Yet our relationship to our lives in the world fill that sky with all kinds of cloud thoughts, feelings, and sensations. Some gray and stormy, some white and billowy, some moving quickly across our mind, some lazily lingering, some causing great joy, others great commotion. In going on retreat, we agree to turn our attention around from outward to inward, from the visible to the invisible. We retreat so we can declutter in order to discover what is true, to discover the clear sky of our original nature for the creation of lives of greater authenticity, clarity, peace, wisdom, and compassion. We retreat from noise to quiet, from activity to repose. Retreats invite us to withdraw from the cares and patterns of our familiar lives and enter into a unique atmosphere of simplicity, gently supported in a carefully designed structure. It is not a retreating from life. It is an opportunity to cross a threshold into a much richer life, an opportunity to become more fully human. In the Quran, it says, "Everywhere I turn, there is the face of God." It is not that Buddha is not everywhere in everything, wherever we are and whatever we are doing, nor that everything everywhere is not our practice. Stepping away from our everyday life by going away on retreat strengthens our foundation in this very truth. It is submersion in a spiritual environment which encourages single-minded focus. It's my understanding that at a Zen retreat, this is generally done through much meditation, a few Dharma talks, sometimes a limited amount of inquiry and study, otherwise silent. In so engaging, we are quieting the weather of our minds and hopefully deepening our understanding of the teachings while getting a taste of the freedom that is there when there is no mind. Then we are recharged and we bring this deeper experience into our everyday lives. The retreat process is designed to be transformative. One could also say that retreats afford us the opportunity to retreat from our separateness and enter a field of oneness, moving from an illusion of who we are into the reality of our Buddha nature, bringing with it better understanding of universal principles. On group retreats, we have the benefit of very experienced travelers, our teachers, and the support of sojourners, our Sangha. On mentored silent individual retreats, we experience the intensity of being alone with the alone. As Master Chungzang says in the Dharma talks, the aspiration to attain Buddhahood and deliver all sentient beings is the greatest of all. And Master Sotazen teaches in the principal book that if we continue for a long time with the work of cultivating the spirit, our spirit will become as solid as iron or stone. And in applying ourselves to the myriad sensory conditions, autonomous power will arise in the mind, and ultimately we will gain the power of cultivation. Going on retreat is kind of like filling up our gas tank with the fuel that helps empower, sustain, and inform the application of our daily practice. Retreats provide inspiration and renewed commitment to our life's fundamental purpose. For those of us who have been on Won Buddhist group retreats at the Won Dharma Center, we can see that they not only support the cultivation of the spirit, but also encompass the 9 dharmas of daily practice. Namely, we get to practice returning the mind from distractions, delusions, and wrongdoings through meditation. We reinforce our faith, zeal, and dedication by enacting our resolution and inquiring into our practices and principles. We have opportunity to reflect on whether we are growing in resentment or gratitude. We experience the interplay of other power and self-power. We have a space in which to learn well as to teach well in discussion and Dharma talks if we're asked to do one. And we supported by the teachings, practices, and examples of others in becoming humans who contribute to the well-being of all sentient beings. I have shared a perspective on what we retreat from and what we enter into when we go on retreat. This begs the question, what do we need to bring to a retreat? It is helpful to bring an open beginner's mind, trusting that we will experience exactly what we need in the moment, leaving behind expectations, because we never know what a retreat will render. Sometimes a retreat experience is serene and uplifting, but more often there are highs and lows, peaks and valleys. Sometimes on retreat, we may feel like we are easily in the flow, while other times we are faced with difficulties we didn't anticipate. On retreat, we are facing ourselves with minds that are unguarded, more relaxed, and have less chatter, which allows more space for imprints, unresolved issues, sleepiness, resistance, judgments, all kinds of things to arise. And they arise as part of the transformative process. Both in leading and taking retreats, the quality I have found that greatly support the retreat process include sincerity, determination, humility, patience, acceptance, a resolve to stick to the structure and honor the silence, a willingness to be transparent, and a heart of gratitude for the opportunity. If you've been on retreat, I hope when things open up again that this talk will be an encouragement to engage in more retreats. And if you haven't been on one, I hope this will spur your interest. Thank you for listening.
Wow, thank you so very much, Diane. You brought in so much, and just starting with, what are we retreating from? What are we retreating to? And I can tell that this is based on your own experience. And I agree with many of the points that you brought up, that for me, it is moving away from my normal, patterns of life and then entering into an atmosphere of simplicity, especially the One Dharma Center. As you all know, it's such a beautiful place to retreat to, moving from noise to the quiet. From activity, I think you mentioned activity to repose. And you even talked about, bringing, the relationship between fixed term and daily training, as well as how retreats integrate the essential dharmas of daily practice. So, yeah, you covered. I think that would encourage all of us to attend a retreat in the near future. But I'm going to open it up to our classmates, our Dharma friends. And if you've attended a retreat, please do share your experiences and any reflections that you gained after hearing Diane's presentation. Yes, Brenda.
Thank you, Diane. This was wonderful. And you have such a calming voice as well. So, and John, thank you for also, just real quick, the meditation. I'd never witnessed the full bowing, so that was informative. So, thank you for being willing to do that. But about the talk, the thing that stuck out, I took multiple notes, but the one that really I like and is that, it diminishes the amount of separateness and helps us become more of the I don't know your term, but it was decreasing separateness and becoming just more part of the universe. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tiffany and then John? Or,
I think John actually was first. So
okay, John, then Tiffany.
Um, well, thank you, Diane. Yeah, the bringing your expectations to the, or leaving your expectations at the door was an important takeaway for me. I guess I had an expectation when I did these that you had to sit really still, even if it meant that you were in pain. And it hadn't drummed, I hadn't realized that it's really not furthering my practice to be suffering while I'm sitting. And so I think it takes a little bit of doing a few of these to maybe get the hang of or the maturation or a little bit of understanding of what you're doing there and what the purpose of it is. And so it's not about sitting in a particular posture, you know, or definitely it's not about suffering. So that was one of my misguided interpretations, you know, early on.
Yeah, it is. It's so important not to bring your expectations. I learned that the hard way myself over many years of thinking I'd just be in ecstasy the whole time. And of course, it wasn't like that. All kinds of things would arise. And it's wonderful because it gives the space for those things to come up and get released, you know, in a very special kind of way, you know, because your mind is focused in a different way and open. And I know when you talk about suffering, when you sit in a certain posture, I'm reminded of Vipassana retreats at Insight Meditation Society, where you kind of were expected to sit still. Even if you had a knee pain, they'd often use that as an example. Now, if you get a knee pain, just watch it, just note it and stay with it. And that could be very challenging. But it was interesting. And, you know, you didn't have to do it forever, but you could do it for a while just to notice that it wasn't permanent, you know, was the main point of it. So it was interesting. But I agree with you, it's not about suffering.
Diane and John, thank you both so much for this evening's presentations and meditations. Diane, I was wondering, now I see a lot of advertisements for virtual types of meditation retreats. And I was wondering, through your reflections, what do you think about trying to do that for a full weekend? Because you're still within your own space and you're not necessarily present with other people. And I have yet to do an in-person Won Buddhist retreat, but I'm just curious to see, like, would that translate, or from your reflection, would you say maybe it's better just to kind of wait and get the real thing?
That's a great question, Tiffany. Thank you. From my experience, I've done both. Yeah, and certainly I prefer the being present, you know, live, because you get the sense of the ambiance of the space, the special space, like the One Dharma Center, and the presence, you know, of your sangha and the teachers, and that's very important. But I've done in retreats at home, individual retreats, you know, where I have not in one Buddhism, and another path where I have a structure that I'm given for the whole day that's individualized for me, of meditation, prayer, mantras, and it's from dawn until I go to bed, basically. And I've done that at home, and it's worked for me because I live alone, only I live with a cat, but that's it, you know, and it's worked for me, but it's not the same as going away, you know, because you still have to cook your own meals. You still have a few things you have to do. You know, it's not quite the same, but it definitely works if you really put your mind to it and tell your friends not to call, that kind of thing. And when I've done online retreats, actually as long as 4.5 days online. And it's a lot of time to be in front of a computer. But I was surprised that it was effective. You know, I went deep into it and I learned a lot, and it was a good experience. And I'm trying to remember how it was designed in a way that was comfortable, where you'd be at the computer for a while and then you'd have a break and back to the computer. And there was a lot of teachings involved. And it worked. It can really work really well. And does that answer your question? Or, I mean,
It does. Thank you.
mm.
Go ahead, Bob. Thank you.
In Chapel Hill, we've been having about a half-day retreat once a month. And I've only been to in-person retreats, just a couple of weekend retreats in Chapel Hill. And I agree, in-person is always better. And there's so much more you can put into it, going out in the garden and that sort of thing. The half-day retreats, or I think we may have done one, maybe two all-day retreats online. But as long as they mix things up, and Wollongong is very good at that, a combination of sitting meditation and chanting, prayers. She'll have you walk around your house, do a walking meditation in your own house. She'll have a 2 or 3 minute clapping meditation. She'll have a laughing meditation. And then at some point she'll say, we're going to have a half-hour decluttering meditation. You all go declutter something and then come back and report what you've done. At any rate, I think they've been useful. They do help you get away from your daily path, your daily tasks, and help you concentrate a bit more, and you learn more. But I do look forward to when we can get back to in-person retreats. When I was with the Kadampa Center with the Tibetan folks at the end of the 2-year course, they wanted us all to go, I think it was to New York somewhere, and for a 3-week retreat, which I never did. But there were stories of hours and hours of sitting meditation, or where one of the monks might go on in his Dharma talk for literally hours, and they felt it was a test of your patience. Oh, that didn't sound very enticing. That's why I also came into my first retreat with some trepidations, and it turned out to not be that way with the Won temple.
Yeah, Kathy?
Thank you, Diane, very much for that. It was really lovely. It was really beautiful. You were really thorough, and you made me really miss retreats. Now I really miss the retreats. So yeah, that made me really think I can't wait till the Dharma Center opens again. John, the meditation was really lovely too. And thank you for the bowing. That was great. I really love, Diane, that you said that it's an opportunity to cross a threshold. And you also said it strengthens your foundation. And those two things are really, I think, important to think about. And it reminds me in the scriptures, Master Soda-san, when he's talking about our habit forming mind. I think you mentioned so much. You mentioned most of everything about this, and how this is another way to kind of create good habit forming mind, to be in this specialized training. And he likened it to if you're sick, you go to a hospital. So if you have mind, if you're sick in your mind, you go to a retreat. So you really covered everything, and I'm really grateful. And now I'm also really, really looking forward to seeing everybody here at retreat now. That will be so fun. So yeah, thank you so much, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you, John. I didn't get a chance to thank you. That was a nice meditation.
Yes, Isabel.
Yes, I too want to thank Diane and Bob too. Thank you. I mean, John, sorry. Thank you so much. Diane, your talk was incredibly well structured, and it just took us through a whole kind of journey of a retreat, and it's wonderful. Like Kathy says, it really made us want to be there. And I do think that one of the most important parts, like John said, was the part about the expectations, because we go there and it's always like, I can't wait to get to the retreat. It's going to be so wonderful to be there. And some people, the people who go there for the first time, say, why did you come here? What brought you here? Oh, I came to relax. And, as the days start going by, you start to see people looking very different and all kinds of other parts of their personality start to come out. And by the end, when we sit in a circle, people are crying and they're going through all the drama that they went through. And it's wonderful because it does, like you said, it gets released,
Mhm.
So I think that's a great, you put it so beautifully because it's so true. That's the experience of a retreat. I don't think I've gone to one retreat where I don't come back exhausted from all that I went through. But but I go back to a life that is so much. I got gained so much. I can apply so much, and things begin to completely turn in my life to a much better situation. So. Thank you for reminding us all of that, and so that we can all share it and remember it. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. I want to just add to that I've been on not on one Buddhist retreats, but some other retreats that you see people go through exactly what you're talking about, and the changes. But at the end of the retreat, you go, wow, the person looks so different in a good way. And people will comment to you about it. It's interesting. It really is transformative.
Yeah,
And
it's totally,
special
totally different. And thank you for bringing it up. That was great.
Yes, Christine.
So thank you, John. Yes, great meditation. And Diane, that was really a good talk. And Isabel, you made me think too of something that Diane said about the transformative part of retreats. I've been on retreats a lot, many at One Dharma, but also many other different places during my life. And I always found that when I came home, walking back into my life I saw it in a whole different way. So, and that wasn't always so easy, because on retreat, you have the time and the space to really delve into whatever comes up, or whatever you really feel like you want to spend time with or study or meditate about. And then when you come home and your life gets busy again and you don't have that time, you almost feel like, wow, how do I do this? That to me is like the overwhelming part, coming home. And then my husband and I always had this thing about, he would go one weekend, I would go a different weekend, and then we'd have this pact, like, don't talk to me afterwards, because I need space. And initially we didn't honor that. And then later on in years, we both realized, wow, you just need that time to come back to your life. And when you're ready to talk, you can talk about it, but it doesn't happen right away. So it's a really beautiful thing to go on retreats. Kathy, you're right. I'm like so missing going on retreat at the One Dharma Center. That we can't do now. And, we're fortunate to have our Sunday services and women's group and weekly meditation. But it isn't the same as being away. And Diane, you brought up all those memories of doing that and having that happen. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When is the center going to open?
The One Dharma Center, when is it going to open? I'm not sure.
So eager.
I'm not sure, but I want to just go back to, I think Tiffany asked such an important question, because I've been thinking, reflecting on that as well. I definitely agree with Diane, and others of you have expressed, the in-person aspect, of actually relocating yourself and going to a totally different atmosphere, and how that's transformative. But now that I look at the millennials and the Gen Zs, I'm amazed with those generations, the future generation, how creative they are. And I think that this whole online experience is actually very revolutionary in many ways, because now people who have not had access to retreats can now have access to it. There's certain people that don't live close to a retreat center, or maybe they don't even have the money to actually go to a retreat center because it's not cheap. I've done the research. I've tried to look for cheaper retreat. They're not cheap. So I feel like in the future, we'll have both. We'll have the in-person option, but also this whole virtual retreat, I think, is going to open up a lot of new doors, right? And I have faith in the younger generation. I'm just amazed with them that they will have creative ways, just like Reverend Wollongong actually, of engaging people and helping people to really bring, create their atmosphere, their home as a retreat center. So I'm excited to see what happens in that sense. So thank you so much for that. And now I will open up to Reverend Yu.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Diane. Diane, your talk is so clear and to the point and very organized. I think it does not come just like reading some material or reference from your retreat experience itself. You have done so many retreats before. I talked with Reverend Doyon, who's working at Manhattan, one temple in New York City. So Manhattan Temple and the One Dharma Center decided to have a one-day virtual retreat at the end of April, the last Saturday. So every month we plan to, for the last 1 year, we didn't have any retreat, but we will start from online retreat, and let's see, from the summer we can have a 3-day retreat in person, or we can have that online retreat during the Independence Day holidays. Several years ago, one Buddhist minister went to Samsung Hospital since his son was very sick. He was wearing Western style, one Buddhist uniform. So everybody, it looks like a Catholic priest. So even though they are not one Buddhist, they could easily recognize he's some priest in some tradition. Well, while he was waiting on a chair, one gentleman approached him. He immediately recognized who he is. He's a pretty well-known CEO in big company. A lot of people know his face. And out of nowhere, he talked to that one Buddhist minister, and he said, from several months ago, he had abdominal pain, and to make a long story short, the doctor diagnosed his case as a cancer. He has some stomach cancer. Even though it is not a terminal stage, of course, he's very surprised and upset. But the point is, when he rested, he could have the time look back his life. After he graduated from some college. He worked literally all day long, just like Elon Musk works every day, 17 hours, except Sunday. And the thing that he discovered that from the secular perspective, he became very successful person in his career, in his material wealth, etc. But he really feels sorry he could not have a quality time with his daughter and his wife, and his daughter does not talk to him anymore. And he told to that one Buddhist minister who was waiting for his sons coming out that if he were young, he would not live in that way. But it's a little late. 3 years ago, my brother-in-law told me after he read the morning newspaper on Sunday, he told me my friend, who was a very high level government official, died because of the heart attack. He was in his early 50s. We didn't go to the same high school, but we were involved in some extra curricular activities. He's one of the brightest mind I have ever known. But I know the cause of his death. He overworked himself to death. Not all people, but a lot of people, whether in the United States, especially in Japan or South Korea, where the competition is very fierce, live and work very, very hard. So just if our life is compared to driving a car without dropping to the rest area, they just drive on and on. But just like that CEO's life, if we are driving to the correct destination, being correct, I mean we are satisfied with that life goal we try to achieve, then it may be fine, but many times they regret. Of course, they worked very hard. They may or may not accomplish what they would like to attain. So we needed to stop the car of our life on and off and check whether we are driving to the proper path or not. Slowing down your car is not enough. Probably you have experienced when you are driving in the unknown territory, just relying on navigator. Sometimes you need to stop the car and re-enter your destination again. That's why our founding master said, be mindful each year to set aside in advance the necessary funds for meditation center so that you may receive a specialized training at a retreat center. There are many different translations. 선언에 입선하여 means be mindful to go to the retreat center. It literally means be mindful. It means you need to change your environment a couple of times in a week, in a year. Of course, you can have some virtual retreat, you can practice. But once or twice, our founding master recommend, go to the retreat center, apart from your routine work or house. That's important. Do you need many vet scholars say animals also need a vacation? Do you know that? Your pet, 1 week or another, needed to go out and stay in some different environment. When your pet came back, it's far more happier, joyful. It's the same with the humans, with the human mind. You can exercise at home. There are lots of applications that you can download on your iPhone. You can buy weightlifting machine, barbell, dumbbell, but isn't that far better to go to the gym? In the gym, at the retreat center, there is a teacher, not like in your house, and the Dharma friends. Think about that. 30% of the retreatants at the One Dharma Center are beginning practitioners. 10 or 15% of the people have never practiced the meditation before. But when the meditation starts, when they like it or not, they appear very calm, but their mind can go crazy during the meditation session. That kind of enforced environment is very, very healthy to most of the people. What is a retreat? Going to the retreat center from our routine, of course. We need to reflect and think our life, our practice from the blank. That's important. From a completely new perspective. It's just like when you paint, you need to start from the blank canvas. When ministers or Christian pastors prepare their sermon on some topic, they think about that. They search for some proper material. If they think all day long, their talk is not inspiring. Sometimes just let it go, and from a new perspective, they need to prepare the Dharma talk. At least that's my case, yeah. And retreat is withdrawing ourselves from our routine. The second meaning of a retreat, just like Diane beautifully stated, retreat, the authentic meaning of a retreat is retreat our senses, retreat our mind from our sensory experience. Let our mind free from, independent from seeing, hearing, touching, especially thinking. That is the authentic meaning of a retreat. When I went to the Plum Village in France many years ago, I stayed in a big room, probably more than 15 people use the same room. It's a huge size room. So I talked with a lot of people who come from Sweden, France, Germany, etc. I heard there are more than 100 Western monastics in Plum Village. They decided to change their life course when they had a long-term retreat in the Plum Village. Of course, they regularly attended local Sangha, practiced meditation, but retreat is just like taking shower. Even though many times you wash your hands and the face, that's not the same taking shower. They say, I'm too busy to join the retreat. But we needed to contemplate busy with what? Or busy for what? We need to seriously reflect where our car is going to the right direction or not. When we say Buddhist practice or mind practice, as we know, spiritual cultivation, cultivation of wisdom, mindful choice in action, so-called the threefold practice. When you are involved in daily activities, the main subject is a choice in action. You have to utilize what you learn in your daily life. That is the fruit of your practice. As Grace said, daily practice and retreat practice, fixed term training, retreat practice. But when you are at the retreat, the main subject is not choice in action. It's a spiritual cultivation and the cultivation of wisdom. One day, one Buddhist member visited, paid a visit to our third head Dharma master, Venerable Desa. He is a kind of a big shot as a lay person in Won Buddhism. He donated a lot of money to Won Buddhist order, CEO of some big company. Because of high blood pressure, diabetes, and many anxiety problems, he would like to spend some time with Master Tesan. Tesan said to me, your sickness cannot be cured by medicine. What's your medicine? You need to rest. Rest is the best medicine. Just like stress is the worst, the cause of all kind of sickness. But many people, especially people who made it in this society, they cannot rest. Why? They compete with the others and achieve something. They cannot rest. They can rest. Think about so many rich people in this world. They have so much money. Unless they gamble, they cannot spend those much money for the rest of their life. But still they start to work very hard to make more money. So at the retreat, what's the subject? Spiritual cultivation. We need to have authentic rest, retreat our mind from our senses, and we need to learn the Dharma, not just the cultivation of a spirit, but cultivation of wisdom. Jesus said, the truth will set you free. The truth itself will not set you free. You need to learn the truth, learn the Dharma. And you need to actualize that truth in your life. American presidents are very busy person. They also go to the vacation. When you look your life from afar, from a very long distance, you can see that very, very objectively. When you are beginning drivers, okay, I got the driver license 3 days ago. Watch how they drive. When they drive, they just look in front of their car. If you become very experienced, when you drive, you look very far. There's in Texas, there's one millionaire who retired, started to volunteer in soup kitchen for the homeless. He worked there for 1 week. What he discovered is the head of the soup kitchen. The lady, because of the dwindling number of the volunteers, she has to make up all those lacking area. And also she has to constantly worry about how to buy the food, how to buy the ingredient, etc. 2 areas she was constantly concerned. She looked very, very exhausted. Actually, she is exhausted. She lived in that way for many years. When the millionaire left the soup kitchen, he gave her 2 envelopes to the manager. When she opened the first envelope, she burst into laughter because there was a check. The amount of the money that she does not have to worry for 6 months to run that soup kitchen. When she opened a second envelope, she burst into tears. There were 2 tickets and a very short letter to her. 1 plane ticket, round ticket, go to Miami in Florida. The another ticket, it's kind of a hotel reservation so that she can rest for 10 days in some good resort hotel. The letter says, when I worked in your soup kitchen, I discovered a lot in my life instead of helping others. But you looked too tired. You need some rest. So she said, it's the best gift she have ever received from other person. You do not have to wait for some nice gentleman to give you that ticket. You can give the ticket to yourself. Two years ago at the Memorial Day retreat, one lady, she's not interested in any religious or spiritual. Her daughter gave her the ticket of a 3-day Memorial Day retreat. And she, at the conclusion session, sharing session, she said that that's the best gift she has ever received. So at the end of the April, we have a 1-day retreat, the last Saturday, and probably from summer, we will resume our retreat. So this is really not just the one Buddhism, especially tradition of Mahayana tradition, Tibetan tradition, all tradition emphasis. Jesus or Buddha also took a retreat from their busy life. So let's be mindful to actualize this item. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Reverend Yu, that clear description. And that emphasis, I think you're, something that I need to hear actually, because when you talk about rest, the body doesn't lie. And so it's interesting. So when I get tired, I get cold sores. And I used to actually be very resentful about those cold sores. But those cold sores saved my life because mentally, I don't know that I'm tired, but physically it appears and it's a sign to me to say, Grace, slow down. You need to rest. And so my practice has been, just to put things down and not feel guilty about it, because I have this pattern where it's like, if I'm not working, then I'm not, being productive. So I think this is good. That's a huge teaching for me as well, that I'm still working on this idea of just really, truly resting. And I agree with Reverend Yu that definitely the retreat helps that, definitely. So yes, so as he said, at the end of April, there's a virtual, but in the summer, there'll be in person. And Reverend Yu, as my senior minister, please, at some point, please do give me an envelope with something in it too. I'd really appreciate it, like a spa or something like that. Okay, so I will open up the rooms. There's so much to discuss. So I hope you enjoy your small group discussions. Welcome back, everyone. Nice to see everyone again. Okay, so I'm sure there's a lot of fruitful discussions centered around retreats. Love to hear, Reverend Yu and I would love to hear back from you. I guess, is there anyone from Allison's group that would like to share what came up for your group? Allison or Isabel, Jay or Tiffany? Okay, go ahead. You go ahead. Whoever wants to unmute.
Okay, I'll start and please jump in, my lovely colleagues. So the three out of the four did not have the opportunity to attend a retreat yet, but Isabel, we were fortunate to have share her breadth and depth of experiences, and I would recommend that she become a brochure. Just record her, put her on the website, and people will come. It was just that wonderful that within 10 minutes, we were all like, okay, when, how much, and should we come in with any expectations? She could sell anything. So it was a real treat to hear. The example that Isabel shared with us was a New Yorker cartoon in particular, where one side, someone was going towards, and help me if I'm wrong, Isabel, was going towards, fun and enjoyment, and they looked happy, and then the other side, the person was coming down who was coming from enlightenment, and their hair was sticking up, their eyes were bulging out, like they had a whole experience that did not look, like they were peaceful. But Isabel calmed us down when she saw that we were getting a little anxious. And she, like Allison showed us, because she said, that's how you know that you started doing the hard work. And it's okay to feel that way, because it's supposed to be transformative. And she shared how she was able, as Reverend Yu said earlier, to take what she learned and apply it back home. And I think that's something that, we wanted to know, is it just in that moment that you feel spiritual? And she said, no, it's something that she's carried and built upon with subsequent retreat settings. So, she was great. She's a great ambassador. So.
Reverend Yu, I think, yeah. So Isabel, she can do marketing for the summer retreats. We'll get her to create something. But Isabel, I totally agree with you. After retreats, I will conk out for a day because you really immerse yourself and you're meeting people, you're listening to Dharma talks and doing meditation. So, but it's a different time of fatigue. It's a different type. It's just, you're getting ready for just a transformation. So thank you. That's so great. Isabel or anyone else, do you want to add to that, or just sounds wonderful? Okay. How about Christine's group? Christine, Ida, John, or Diane? Is there anything that was interesting or insightful in that group? This is the virtual retreat. It's a silent virtual retreat. I get it. I
can start. We seem to have a group that had many different experiences with different retreats, from Sufi to Zen to Catholic to silent to just a lot of experience. And I think we all enjoyed them all, and said if you go in with that open mind and that beginner's mind, that even if you're in a dorm room where a lot of people are sleeping, even though that might be exhausting, it still can be a good retreat. So we just talked about how important it is to set aside the money to do that and to save up. And sometimes maybe you really need to save up enough so that you can have your own space on a retreat. And I had the luxury of once having my own room on a retreat, once when I didn't plan it, but there was just no roommate. And another time when I said, oh, I like this, I'm doing this. And it was really nice. Even though it's nice to have a roommate sometimes, it's really nice to have that space to sort out what's going on with you by yourself. So that's lovely about the One Dharma Center, that there are rooms if you want to spend the money to do that. And we all felt like we benefited. No matter where we went, we learned different traditions, we learned different chanting, we learned different ways of doing things. So they're all incredibly beneficial. It's great to exit the highway, as Reverend Yu says. Get off for a while, take a breath, rejuvenate, and then come back to your life a little different. So I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything else, but we had a great discussion.
Just, yeah, you said everything. Just wanted to add that particularly at the Wan Center, and I'm sure at a lot of the other retreat centers, is that connection with nature, to be able to get out on the odd hours and be able to observe the sky, and, especially if you're getting up very early in the morning and just seeing the difference, compounds the difference in your daily life together with the beauty of the nature. It really makes an impact.
You bring up a good point, John, just the facility. So when we do the evaluations, many people will talk about the food, right? The food and then the accommodations. That's seriously one of the most important things. Revenue probably knows this most. It's like, what do you eat? Where do you sleep? This is extremely important. And the fact that you don't have to cook. I think a lot of people said that too. It's like, I don't have to cook. I just go. They're like, ding, 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 ding. And then you just go. So they're like, yay. So that's the beauty of retreat too. It's just, focusing on your practice. Wonderful. And also the connections that you make. I think when you go to retreats, you make a lot of strong, deeper connections with your teacher and your friends. I do remember going to like a Kyomunim, a Korean, like in Korea, we have a retreat center, and the ministers will once a year will have a week retreat. So if you're younger, it's not that great because you have to share like this huge room with like 8 other ministers. Like as you get older, then you get like the VIP suite. But so I was in the one where we had to share it with 8 people, and there was this one minister that was snore so loud, but we couldn't shift it to another room because it was full. So our strategy was like we just go like to bed like as early as possible, and then get her to go to sleep at the last. But yeah, so but we became closer as friends. We became like really close Dharma friends. So that's another joy. All righty. How about Brenda, Kathy, Bob? Is there anything there?
Go ahead, Kathy.
I thought you were going to talk.
No.
What did we talk about? We talked about so many things. We talked about, we had different experiences. And we talked about our different experiences in relationship to the Wan Dharma Center, like the different retreats. Whereas I think Bob and I had some longer, different type of retreats, and the benefit of the Wan Dharma Center is in the application and the practicality of it. And Brenda had asked, like, what does a retreat look like? Can you just give me an idea of what it looks like to be at retreat? So we were trying to kind of answer the question. I was answering for Wan Dharma, and Bob was answering for North Carolina Temple. And there was a couple aspects, like we get to be together. We get to be together too from different temples. Like we are an extended family, which is really lovely. And it's really lovely to have online, because we wouldn't have what we have right now if we didn't have this online group. We wouldn't be able to meet each other like this. So that's really lovely to have this kind of a mini retreat every single week. And but also at the Dharma Center that I went through sort of the logistics of that, and that the other part of it, that there's always someone there to, when you do have those moments of facing sort of your, you know, difficulties, facing yourself, that there's always someone there to catch you. There's always a minister, there's always a Sangha member. Even in silence, there'll always be somebody to hold you and support you in the practice. And so that's really, really helpful to know, that no matter what, you're going to be in safe space. So no matter what's going on. And then I feel like, Bob or Brenda, is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I think I was commiserating with you all. I'm retired and older, but I have a son and his wife and our 3 grandkids, and how challenging it is, even before the pandemic, with mothers trying to work, trying to take care of their children and get away. Even as one, I don't know if you used Kathy, somebody said to watch 5 minutes of cat videos on YouTube as a way of relaxing. Just a few minutes to yourself a day is so precious. And now with the pandemic and people working from home and children being at home in school for a while, and then they close the school and back home again, it's been really tough. And so even though we can't meet in live face-to-face retreats now, at least having Dharma discussion groups, having this class, Sunday services and meditation services, and even like in our Chapel Hill Temple, the half-day mini virtual retreats have been very, very welcomed by people. We really need to be able to chill out a little bit from time to time.
Brenda just goes hands up, fingers up. Great. Wonderful. So thankful for all of your sharings. Reverend Yu, if you could just close us off for today, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Do you know what I do on Christmas Eve? So as I said last Thursday, for a while, I thought minister having a girlfriend is not a bad idea, but my teacher awakened me. That's a really, really bad idea. So I don't have anybody to go out on Christmas Eve. I usually watch this film on YouTube, Christmas Carol. There are a lot of versions. I watched them a lot. As you already know the story, Scrooge is a very rich accountant. On Christmas Eve, if he go out with other people, it takes money, and he thinks it's a waste of the time. He go to bed very early. And he was visited by his friend who became a ghost with lots of shekels, with a lot of heavy boxes full of coins, a lot of money. And his friend told him, at the midnight, you will be visited by 3 ghosts. He just ignored that. What a nonsense. Right? But at exactly midnight, the ghosts of the past visited him. He was very afraid. And by some supernatural power, he could see his past. That ghost didn't say anything, but when he looked back his past, it's a very, very strange. He was not born and raised in a very rich family. But when he was a teen, he was very, very happy, joyful without reason, just like the children. And when he saw himself in his 20s, he just regret one thing. He had some woman that he loved, but in order to accomplish his career, and he hesitated to marry her. And she was not rich woman, so she married to another person. So when he saw the lady whom he forgot for a long time, he thought about what would happen to his life if he married with that lady. And the ghost of the past left. After 1 hour, ghost of the present came to him. And he was in his house. Scrooge was in his home, but that ghost brought him to the street in the downtown. They were very, very happy, most of the people, on Christmas Eve. And the ghost showed him his employee, his assistant's home. He was very poor. He has many children. One children is disabled. He couldn't walk properly. He's a crippled. So Scrooge always thought, what a burden it is. But despite that external conditions, they were very, very happy in that small house. That also surprised Scrooge. Ghost of the present left, and ghost of the future visited him. The ghost brought him to some cemetery. In front of the grave, it appeared they just finished some funeral service and buried some person. There were 5 or 6 people, probably the friends of the dead, but nobody feels very sorry for his death. Just one person was very sorry for his loss, because he lent him a lot of money, but he could not pay it back because he died. So Scrooge thought to himself, what kind of a person he is. Nobody feels sad after he died. Scrooge was very curious about that person, and approached to the grave and looked at the inscription of the tombstone. What does it say? It was his name, Scrooge. He was shocked. And holding the cloak of the ghost of the future and cried, let me go back to my life again. Let me go back. Give me another chance. He cried a lot, just like children. He was awakened and realized it was just a dream. But he was so happy he has a second chance. So he was awakened on the Christmas day when the Jesus got resurrected. On the Christmas day, when he say Merry Christmas, he just reply back. When people say Merry Christmas, he have to say back. But on that day, on that morning, he said first, Merry Christmas from the bottom of his heart, because he was born again. Let me ask you one question. Scrooge, as an accountant, after that night, do you think he made more money or lesser money after he became born again? There's a correct or incorrect answer, who knows? Yeah. My guess is, to Scrooge, it does not matter anymore. Whether he makes more money, lesser money, he's still happy and contented and joyful. That is the so-called being born again. So how he was provided that kind of a precious chance? Because he could look back his life very deeply. His past, present, and the future. If he continued to live in this way, what would happen at the end of his life? I think COVID-19 situation provides you a wonderful retreat period. In this solitary environment, we cannot go out freely. We cannot talk with other people that much. The universe intentionally provides us a good opportunity to reflect ourselves. So just like that night was a great turning point to Scrooge, you can reflect yourself and plant the seed of awakening and the vow. Read the Ilwansang vow one more time this week and contemplate it and think about where your life is going. So that one night was a great turning point. So you can join that one-day retreat in April. And in May or June, Grace, you can lead a one-day retreat in May or June. Yeah, let's talk about that later.
All right, as long as Isabel does the marketing. All righty. So thank you so much for that, Reverend Yu. Always a pleasure for you to close us off. And also for next week, we are week 9, and I'm just looking for a volunteer for a presentation and a guided meditation. For the presentation, if you haven't had the opportunity, I welcome you. So is there anyone who'd like to present for week 9, which will be the 5th item of mindfulness regarding temple visits? Or guided meditation? Is there anyone who would like to do the guided meditation? If not, I'm just default to Christine, because Christine, or has Isabel, have you done it? Okay, Isabel, is it okay? Have you not done yet? Okay, Isabel, wonderful, thank you. Okay, and presentation, is there anyone who'd like to, who hasn't yet, or or just think about it and reach out to me, or I'll reach out to you. I'll have to see who hasn't presented yet. Okay, so everyone have a very, very good night. So wonderful to be in community with all of you. Okay, so